There is many stories finding somebody who passed away 2 months before,
Oh, wow.
getting a wellness check call.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting smell.
Thank you for coming down and leaving this with me. Yeah. We've known each other for quite a while.
Quite a while, several years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Years, a couple different properties.
Yeah.
Why don't we start out with first, thank you for joining me with Matcha with Mammoth. I've got the matcha, you've got
I've got coffee.
So why don't you tell us what you do and, what you do now and how we might have gotten to know each other.
Sure. So I work for Sussman Properties, manage Kenmore Apartments in Southington Country Club in New Britain, and then a couple commercial properties throughout the area. We had Mammoth Security come in probably 5 years ago and start doing our cameras around the residential properties for us when we started having some crime issues in the parking lot. So it's been nice to have the cameras in the lobby and the stairs and around the parking lots to really keep an eye on what's going on. And then, of course, we've had several upgrades throughout the years as technology has changed and evolved.
How did you get into property management and what do you do now and how did you get into property management?
So junior year of college was cocktail waitressing, needed another knee surgery. It was probably number 8. So that just was not in my future anymore. So I started with Equity Residential as a leasing consultant.
Nice.
2 weeks in, the property manager quit. It was quickly sink or swim. And thankfully, it was right at the summertime college break. So I took the challenge and took over the property until they hired somebody else. Senior year of college, got waitlisted at Stetson. I put my balls all in one bag with Stetson or nothing. Worked as a paralegal. Lately did not like it. So within 6 months, became a property manager with Forest Properties. Back in, it was, I think, maybe 2002. And I've been in the industry since.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been great seeing it evolve over 20-something years. Dating myself there.
Could never tell. So you were saying that you started off in property management and it was about, 2 weeks in where it was a sink or swim thing.
Yep. Yeah.
So how did that go? So you kind of figured it out as you went along?
Exactly. Yeah. One of my friends had gotten me a job with Equity Residential and she loved it. So, I took a shot and had to step up to the plate really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely interesting. No 2 days are ever the same. So I managed that property while they were looking for somebody to be able to do it full time once I went back and finished my senior year of college and continued to work with them part time. And then went back part time when I was working as a paralegal. Definitely interesting experiences. I mean, you see everything in property management that there is. Things that you will never, ever forget, things you'll never forget smelling, and just very interesting.
I have a feeling there's a story behind that.
There is many stories behind that. Finding somebody who passed away 2 months before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, getting a wellness check call before you actually, those were the days when you didn't call the police for a wellness check.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it was an interesting smell.
So you got into it a while ago. What type of changes have you seen in property management from when you started to today? Like, what are some of the biggest changes?
So many changes between the CRMs that we use, the switch from paper payments to strictly being online, the need for identification verification because of the fraud with pay stubs and Social Security cards, just everything is on the rise. I mean, cameras in the past wasn't even something that was a thing when I first started. You know, we didn't have car break-ins. We didn't have a lot of issues back then. So just the need for a lot of technologies these days for in every aspect between signing leases, payments, being able to offer 24-hour surveillance as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that's a big selling point for people.
Very big. Yeah.
Have the cameras been able to help you with your property management job to kind of do it remotely, or has it really only been a help for, keeping honest people honest, or has it actually helped you do your job remotely?
No, it's definitely helping remotely, especially having the remote monitoring now at night and being able to pull those cameras up on my phone. It's nice to see when we get an alert as to what's going on in the parking lot and be able to assess, figure out if we need the police, if they automatically call the police, and just it offers the residents definitely a bigger peace of mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. You guys have a pretty rare service that not a lot of people utilize just yet because it's still relatively new. And that's the live monitoring of the cameras by a remote operator.
Correct.
So I know there's been some challenges in kind of finding the right company. You guys have been through, I think, one or two. But I mean, aside from, trying to find the right company in general, what do you think of that type of technology?
It's definitely a bonus. A lot of the residents find it appealing. And, while we can't say that it's a security system because can't guarantee safety or security or anything like that, the residents do find it nice to know that there's somebody kind of keeping an eye on the property 24/7. Either, when I'm in the office, because I start my day at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then our remote surveillance starts at 6 p.m. So it's kind of nice for the residents to know that there's somebody always with an eye on the properties.
Awesome. Okay.
So, and it's definitely, I've talked to residents at other communities where they're like, well, are cars still being broken into? And I'm like, no, we haven't had a break-in in a while, thankfully. So.
Yeah, that's great. I know there was one time that, because I was getting notifications personally for a little while there, and there was somebody working on their car at 11 p.m. and it starts going off that they're trying to steal a catalytic converter.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, definitely got that call and definitely went out there as well. I knew the police were being called. This guy did it not once, but twice now. He finds the need to work on his car, his tires especially, like late at night, early in the morning when it's dark out. But it's nice just to know that even that kind of activity is going to set something off.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It looks the same. You know, if you're crouching down under a car, I mean, a remote operator can't tell the difference, obviously.
Right.
Then they're not going to remember who it is at the property.
Right.
You can.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad they called, even though kind of a false alarm, but.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in property management? Challenges or, maybe you could share a story or two, of your hardest days in the field.
Oh boy, where do I start with those? So I guess one of the hardest things is knowing who you're renting to these days. A couple of years ago, we rented to somebody and completely thought that this guy was who that he said he was. He had the driver's license, he had the Social Security card, he had the pay stubs, he had everything like that. Completely seemed legit. One night, our super gets a call that he locked out of the apartment. Turns out that he had changed the lock to his apartment. So Chet's like, no, sorry, can't help you. Like, you're on your own on this. So the next morning, before I even talked to Chet, I was getting up early to go to the gym. And there was a bunch of like ink containers in the hallway from pens and ink all over the door jamb. He was trying to use these pens to break into his apartment.
A pen to break into the apartment?
Yes.
interesting tool.
Yes.
Okay.
So being me, I picked them all up and left them at his door and went to the gym. Like, not going to tolerate this. Came back, found him at my door. So, no, not having it. Knocked on his door and said, here's your pens back. Dropped him on the floor, turned around, walked away. And he comes after me, starts yelling, screaming. Hands are flailing in the air, like very aggressive, very assertive. So, okay, here comes a Ring doorbell now, like first step to more security on the property. Couple months later, 2 months later, he stops paying rent. So we start the eviction process. Turns out he wasn't who he said he was at all.
Oh, no.
Yes. He had submitted fake documents, and we had to go through the eviction process to get the apartment back. And in doing so, we found out his real identity. He was in jail for illegal possession of weapons, illegal discharge. We found credit card makers. We found out his real identity. We found thousands and thousands of dollars in stolen sneakers. Wow. Bail's bondsmen are coming days later looking for him because he fled on bond.
Wow.
Yeah. So that kind of started the need to do identification verifications.
Wow. So in that specific instance, were you, how did you get him out? Because I know if you don't have the correct information, you can't technically evict somebody. And then if they leave, you still have to go through an eviction process, right? You can't just take over the apartment.
Correct.
So how did that work?
It was the abandonment process that we had to go through. We had to show that he was no longer living there.
Got it.
Okay. So, but when we went in, it was kind of scary because he has like machetes at the door and like a candle.
And a candle.
And a candle.
Okay.
And I took a picture of this because no one ever believes it.
Yep.
But I mean, like the whole abandonment process, you got to prove that like certain things aren't there, that he hasn't been there in so long. You've got to bag up what was left and you've got to keep it for so long. We did actually, he was out eventually and we did meet up to return it, but we definitely had a third party and another lawyer aside from our lawyer get involved for the exchange, just to
make sure that
everything went legally.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I know I've heard of some eviction nightmares and you have to put it in storage for a certain amount of time. And
right.
You're on the hook for the storage, right?
Correct. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, thankfully, like we have enough storage where we can store it. But there also, when you go through the abandonment process, there has to be certain items that are there to be able to take possession back according to abandonment.
Got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. So what are some of the common misconceptions about property management and what are the realities behind them?
I mean, it's definitely not an easy job. We don't just sit there. I mean, you think that it's an easy job and it's really not. No 2 days are ever the same. You're kind of wearing 5 different hats all at the same time. Mm-hmm. We're unfortunately good cop, bad cop. You've got to be there to make people feel comfortable in their home. Because, your home is one of your biggest security things, if you will, in life. And it's one of the biggest stressors as well. So it's sometimes you're hand-holding, but at the same time, you've got to be enforcing the rules and you've got to walk a very delicate line in between there. You've definitely got to have the right personality to do it. You can't take things personally. And I think that's been a really big challenge for me, is learning that work-life balance as well. So the misconception is that, it's an easy job to do, and it's really not, because you're never going to have the same experience twice. And it's learning how to think on your feet fast and be able to assess any problems or any problem and be able to act accordingly without having a blueprint in front of you. Like there's no standard operating procedure for some of these experiences that you run into. For example, I had a hoarder and I got a call from my maintenance and they're like, we're not going in. My regional saying, no, they're going in. So I go into the apartment, went in, turned around, threw up at the doorstep and said, no, they're not going in. Took a stand for my guys and had to go over my regional's head at the time.
Wow.
And it's not an easy thing to do. Like I feared for my job at that time because I had to go over somebody's head. But it's also, you've got to be able to stand up for yourself and stand up for what you believe in. And that's really not easy to do either. Because again, it's somebody's home and it's also people's career.
Yeah, it's a lot of careers, right? You have a lot of supportive staff that are working with you.
Right. I mean, not just the on-site staff, but also our contractors and our vendors. We've got to make sure that they're safe and that we're operating within the confines of so many different things, fair housing, and just the safety of the residents, safety of the vendor, safety of sending them into homes and stuff like that. So.
Very tight line to walk on, right? Yeah, for sure. Have you had any mentors that have kind of helped you develop how you'd approach these problems? I assume all of them can't just be Googled, right?
No, they can't be Googled. I would have to say that Rich, who recently stepped in, has been a really great mentor. He's really taught me how not to take things personally. He's guided me through some very delicate situations, given me the courage as to how to handle situations, the courage to have my work-life balance, and really to be more delicate and get back to who I was when I first started and have a more gracious approach to things, if you will. There's, a lot of companies, it's a very defined line, and which is great because of fair housing, right? You've got to have that line.
Yeah.
But being able to have the freedom to work within that and the freedom to give the residents what they need versus being so tight-lined and defined with everything has really been great. It's given me a new approach to things and a kinder approach to things, and really, remembering that this is somebody's home and it is a big stressor. So,
yeah. I mean, I think it really comes back to every time being at somebody's home, right?
Right.
It's always very personal. It's a personal space for them,
Right.
And it's very personal for you to go in there and. Same with us as contractors. When we're working in a multifamily residential property, obviously we're doing, fire alarms where sometimes we have to go into a unit and there's a lot of steps that have to be taken to notify them within a certain amount of time, et cetera. And, it's a personal thing.
Very personal.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's delicate because when do you say, okay, well, the needs of the company outweighs the needs of the resident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, a resident will say, hey, I've got a microbial substance in my apartment, but I don't want you to come in. Complain of health issues, but say, no, you can't come in. So you've got to balance that with the need to protect the property as well and say, okay, we're giving you 72-hour notice that we are coming in to make sure that we are taking care of the property. And even though you don't want us in there, we need to come in, protect you, and protect ourselves as well.
Absolutely. The property needs it, and it's also protecting the other residents in the property, not just them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
What emerging trends in the industry have you seen that you're excited about right now? I know there's a lot of digital transformations. You've lived through the digital transformations. What are the next things? Is there AI coming out? Is there something cool that you think you're excited about?
AI is definitely being pushed more and more. And I have to say that I really like that. I will say I've cheated and used AI for some of my resident memos. But, I think as well that it's going to be a helping in every aspect of the multifamily and commercial leasing and rental and maintaining properties and stuff like that. I have heard that AI is eventually going to help with monitoring the cameras as well. And I think that could be great. AI is helping us as well with verifying identifications, verifying paychecks, verifying pay stubs, just verifying a lot of things. So I'm really excited to see where that goes, not just taking stuff off of my plate from like our chat bots and answering questions and stuff like that, but to also helping residents and see where that can bring in terms of, changing the locks on the doors to more of like a digital footprint around the property.
Yeah, we've done that as well, where we changed every single apartment door lock to make it, with fobs, and it does simplify the management of it. And especially if you're replacing all of the door locks, there's not a large additional cost on top of it. It's not too bad if you're in new construction or if you're replacing all of the door locks already.
Right.
A little bit of a tougher sell when you have perfectly functioning door locks, right?
Right.
It works. And, generally those electronic locks, they make a lot of sense, and they're almost a requirement now on like A properties,
Right.
That to Manhattan, downtown Hartford, things like that, or the premium West Hartford stuff. But when you're going to like a standard, B property, that's where it could help with the management, or you're looking at it more as an efficiency standpoint than an amenity, for example.
Right.
So you mentioned AI and cameras.
Yeah.
Your cameras actually are benefiting from that right now because of the live monitoring.
Right.
So a part of that is they do use AI, and I don't want to say it's necessarily AI, it's more so what's called machine learning. A lot of people are using the term machine learning and AI kind of synonymously with each other. So machine learning, similar to AI, is a person that has trained the computer to recognize certain things and patterns, right? So anybody who's getting a camera system today, at least from us, is getting something that has AI built in, and it can tell the difference between a person and a car. So that's like the standard, pretty easy, with about 90% accuracy, you're getting that. Flat out, any new camera system we sell has that. Above and beyond that, we have a very corporate camera system that you can search for blonde women wearing a black top. And it could be a child, it could be an adult, it could be blue jeans. It's pretty crazy. Even hats.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
We installed that for the U.S. Coast Guard, and it was an amazing system. We've done it for a couple corporate campuses as well, that really, international corporate campuses need that level of security, and it's amazing. And it could even, do facial recognition where it knows it's Cindy, and it says, okay, Cindy came in at 8 a.m., and cross-references their time clock system and says, well, she walked in the door at 8 a.m., but she punched in at 7:30. How was that, right? So you can even use it kind of as a time clock system, replace your time clock system. There's a lot of cool things that people are using it for. Or, whitelisting certain people, and when there's somebody that shouldn't be at the door, somebody you let go or somebody that you might have evicted, right? Causing problems on the property, it can send a proactive notification. So a lot of these things are starting to come down in price very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
And, pretty soon I think multifamily residential is going to be enjoying the fruits of that labor.
Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for it because
Definitely.
multifamily, they're the ones that would really benefit from this.
Right.
Because you guys are stretched thin.
Very.
Very, very thin. I know it's very thin margins when it comes to rent and all of this stuff, and everybody's trying to find efficiencies, right? And I know pulling camera footage is probably the last thing that you want to spend time on, right?
Yeah.
That's where the AI comes in, where, you remember how you used to search cameras and it's like trees swaying in the wind at night and this stuff?
Yes. Yep.
thing of the past now.
Right.
When you go to search, you're like, I want to see a person, because cars come in the parking lot and they, do their thing. But a person, there's not that many people out by the dumpster, right?
Right.
So you can, with relative accuracy, about 90% plus, you're finding people, and it just cuts down the search time.
When we got our cameras, we were definitely seeing all the red on the cameras from like raindrops or the wind blowing, bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's come a long way.
Exactly. And it also enables the live monitoring systems like what you have, the live operator, to not have to watch it 24/7.
Right.
He gets a notification where, with that high level of accuracy, he's not spending a ton of time looking at everything. He's just like, it's a guy, he's walking to his car, it's fine. But if he sees a guy crouching,
Right.
now it's a different story.
Right.
Now we're calling the police.
Right. Which happened last night as well. So I was pretty excited about that.
Nice. Now, did that turn into a real case, or was that the guy working again?
It was a different car finally.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know what happened. Like I was up until 11 something last night, 5 minutes after I fell asleep. Otherwise, I would have been out there checking it out.
You'll get the police report eventually, right?
Exactly.
So, let's see. How do you foster positive relationships with your tenants? Can you share any experiences where, that relationship might have helped you?
Definitely. So, I definitely have an open door policy and keep snacks in my office. Never hurts to bribe people to come in. So I have this one resident, the sweetest lady. She comes in, she talks, she checked on me during my recent surgery, everything like that. And turns out she had a camera on her door, and I needed some footage from her Ring camera because, cameras are still up there. I don't have them everywhere on my property where I would like yet. We have them in the key locations, but not everywhere just yet. So, in building a good rapport with her, she's been a resident for probably 6 or 7 years now. So she was able to give me footage from her door combined with the footage from one of the cameras that are remotely monitored, which tied everything together. And I was able to address a situation where package theft was going on the property and be able to take the appropriate action and send a capital letter to the resident.
That's good. That's
yeah.
good. I know that the police can't legally get a warrant unless you have a camera in your hallway to see what door the person goes into.
Right.
I know we've been requested to put cameras in hallways simply for that reason. So like they see John walk downstairs, take a package, right?
Right.
If you don't see him go back into his house, they can't technically get a search warrant to do it. Yeah. So, definitely a selling point for cameras.
Right.
Talk to Rich.
Yeah. I'm working on it.
And so from a property manager's perspective, going to Rich, maybe like looking at what property investors would look for. So what would you suggest from a property manager's perspective, the boots on the ground in the field? What should the investor be looking for in a property when they're evaluating something to invest in?
Definitely want to evaluate the area, evaluate the tenants, evaluate the community as well. See what the community needs, see what the community wants. And I think we're going through that right now because he actually just purchased a property last year. So we're revitalizing the property across the street from the one that we just purchased. And in doing so, we're really trying to learn what the community needs and what the community wants. And in doing so, it's going to actually probably result in more cameras there as well. Because even though you think it's a nice area, we've had a lot of illegal dumping. So, the community wants all these stores and they want these services and they want these amenities. But you've got to be able to balance the ROI with the sales price and the rents and what the area or what the property value will bring to the community. And assess from there what you've got to do to get it to that standard so that you do flourish. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. But really looking at it from a local standpoint, not as a generic standpoint.
Right.
You know, it's got to be locally relevant.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had to kind of rebrand to be relevant again. And Rich has been like just really working hard on doing that rebranding. And it's brought a lot of success so far to the plaza. So we have a lot of things to come, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I saw that. You're actually in my town, so over in Berlin.
Yeah.
It's great to see.
And we might have a gaming store going in. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that just yet, but
That's exciting.
It's the rebranding that's bringing it in. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it where if you see a town has a lot of younger residents, you kind of push things to find the businesses to rent there that would match that clientele.
Right.
Because then they're more likely to be successful, right?
Right.
They're not going to fail.
Right.
But if a Starbucks decides to move in, you're going to take them every time, right?
I don't know. We just with Seeds Eats over Dunkin'.
Oh, really?
Because it's more farm to table.
Nice.
And we think that the community would benefit more from that than another Starbucks.
That's great. That's great to hear, actually.
Yeah. So I think they're opening next week. So I'm so excited to go get like a real coffee versus Dunkin'.
Yeah. Is that around Berlin?
Yeah, it's at the Family Dollar Plaza.
Oh, nice. That one. Yep.
Yep.
So because I'm in Berlin, you know, on the main street, there's two local coffee shops.
Correct.
Then there's a Starbucks that just went in.
Yeah.
There's a Dunkin' Donuts that you wouldn't even break a sweat jogging to.
Right.
And then they're actually opening up a Rebel Dog at the end of the same street. That's 5 within a half-mile stretch in Berlin. Like another Dunkin' Donuts. It's exhaustive.
Right.
That would actually be number 3 because there's one on the Berlin Turnpike as well, just in that one zip code.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah.
It's great to have options.
Yeah. And it's great that they're going to be doing more like bagels and breakfast and stuff like that, and more like stuff that you wouldn't see at Starbucks or Dunkin', like having that personal hometown touch.
More unique.
Yes.
I'll have to check them out next week.
Yeah.
That's fun. So so how do you stay informed and learn? And obviously there's a lot of things that you could learn as a property manager. Right. Are there any organizations or any, resources that are your go-to for learning about things in property management?
Yeah. So I'm a big component of the National Apartment Association and Multifamily Insiders. Multifamily Insiders actually has a demo day coming up where a bunch of different technology corporations go on and present the latest and the greatest in the industry. Nice. And one of those is BetterBot, which we just incorporated into our websites. It's on our listing website and apartments.com, and it will answer questions about what amenities we have. It gives them a link to schedule tours. It'll answer resident questions for us, tell residents how they can log into their portal to place a maintenance request. So it's going to kind of take more things off of my leasing desk and automate more stuff, which in turn will help with a faster turnaround on things. Nice. So, yeah, you guys should get in on the demo day.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's using AI, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it kind of captures information and reaches out to people, and will do our follow-up for us as well. Mm-hmm. So, but then, it's also about learning and staying with the local trends, knowing what rents are doing in the area, staying on top of fair housing as well. So I'm always taking classes, always taking webinars, just making sure you stay on track of the trends.
Yeah. And those requirements change fairly often,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. We had a big change in Connecticut last year with security deposits. So Connecticut Property Owners Association really did a great job of pushing out the information to the property managers, because it went from 30 days to 20 days to refund a security deposit. And, they brought in the understanding of the fair rent commissions, which is now a big thing in Connecticut as well. So
how has that changed?
So residents are pushing back more on their renewal increases. And we're really having to demonstrate the need for the renewal increases.
Really?
Yeah. So
So they're requiring you to prove that the increase is valid based on market rents?
market rents, expenditures, like operating expenses and stuff like that.
Interesting. I did not know that changed, because I know they were trying to enact something where it locks it to a certain percentage every year. And I know a lot of people were saying, well, then property owners will just say, okay, fixed 5% every year across the board, or 10%, whatever it is, and every year, like clockwork, you'll get that, right?
Right.
So how are they doing it now? Are they just saying you have to prove it, but you can do whatever amount you'd like?
Right. We can do it. And then if somebody goes to the Fair Rent Commission, you then have to present your case as to why you want this amount of rent and prove that it's reasonable. So
That must take a lot of time on
it
both
does.
ends, on the
Yeah.
tenant side and on your side.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just not worth fighting because you've got to balance the time and the expenditure of that time.
Got it.
So, and tenant unions are forming now as well, which is big.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never thought that.
Yeah. Yeah. Not in this area, but down in New Haven, they're becoming big.
Oh,
So-
wow.
Yeah.
So how do you balance the needs of the property owners, right? They have their own wants and desires with tenants. You know, you're obviously the go-between between both of them, right? Each one has their wants and needs. How do you kind of bring them together and ensure everybody's a happy family?
So it's really listening to both sides and be able to present a strong case on each side, right? Like being able to justify a rent increase, like what value are we adding to the community and to, you know, the rent that they're paying. And it's also, you know, when you ask for an amenity, when you go to your manager or the owner, saying what value does this add in justifying the expense. So it's being able to see both sides and being able to justify it on both ends of the table. So it's having to know both sides of the resident experience and the owner experience. And I think living on site sometimes gives you that valuable insight. And a lot of property managers don't live on site. But I've seen firsthand living on site how those cameras do help. Since my car was broken into, we did have the footage of it. So that helps justifying it to the owners when we upgraded to the remote monitoring, and then explaining it to the tenants. We just did this value add service.
Gotcha. And that obviously helps with retention and
Right.
potentially help you in those cases where, you know, the rent goes up and you have to
Right.
spread out the cost of the remote monitoring,
Right.
obviously over everybody. Yeah, if you think about it, the cost is so low comparatively per apartment
Right.
with as many apartments as you have that it's almost a no-brainer. I think
Right.
it's like a couple dollars, you know, maybe a month per tenant.
Right.
It's
If
really
that.
not much. Yeah,
It's maybe like $2 a resident, really,
Yeah.
which is not a lot.
yeah, it's really not much. What do you guys use for your CRM there?
So we have Buildium.
Buildium.
We
Yep.
finally welcomed ourselves into the 21st century 2 years ago. So everything is web-based now. So I'm finally going paper-free, which is very exciting. All of our leases are online. We're slowly cross-shredding, micro-cutting all the resident files, putting it all online so that the residents have access to all of their documents right there. We're automating the application process, automating the lease renewal process. So if a resident needs a copy of the lease, we can just point them to the resident center through Buildium. It's right there for you. We can also upload common documents that residents are requesting, doing QR codes now and placing them around the property and linking those back to Buildium as well so that
Gotcha.
residents can troubleshoot their garbage disposal or GFCI outlet.
Mhm.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
something that we've been working on with a lot of the access control manufacturers is actually integrating with different CRMs APIs. So now, for example, your fob system can be managed exclusively through
That would
Buildium, Rent Manager, Rent Tech, etc.
Yeah.
You know, not all of them are as friendly as we'd like
Right.
to develop those types of things, but we've been working with a couple different developers and a couple different property managers where, let's say you have some amenities, you can't cut somebody's access to their apartment off if they're late on rent, right?
wish I could some days.
Oh yeah, they get that payment really fast. But we have some with pool amenities
Right.
and a game room and things like that.
Yeah.
They can cut off the access to those.
Correct.
And that we've automated that in their CRM so that now when late is rent, maybe not give them a grace period.
Right.
Even after the 10th, give them another extra 5 or 10 days, or I think one of them wanted like 30, if they're over 30 days overdue, it cuts it off, but still have access to the front door, still have access to your apartment, but your amenity access is now off.
Right.
Automatically.
That would be nice to have.
As soon as rent's current, turns back on, no
Right.
harm, no foul. So it's very interesting, the technology and how there's a lot of unique use cases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the future as well.
Yeah. I mean, Buildium just started adding some great features. So I would love to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And you've liked Buildium so far?
I have. Yeah, we've been within it for 2 years and it's very user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
They keep integrating new things every year. So can't wait to see what's to come.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's, so now kind of near the end here, but I'd like to find out your favorites. I ask everybody what their favorites are. And locally, I know you might be moving away pretty soon, but what's your favorite local coffee shop besides Dunkin'?
I actually don't like Dunkin', but it was the only thing on the way. Local coffee shop. I'm loyal to Starbucks only because it's everywhere. But I think that'll change once Seeds goes in because I'm at DEB a lot because of Family Dollar with the redevelopment there. So I think that will quickly become my favorite.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try them as well.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite local restaurant?
The Back Nine Tavern.
Nice.
Right over stairs. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like walking distance. They have a great menu, great atmosphere. We've done like our weekly team meetings there as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of close to all the properties that you manage, so everybody can just
Right.
meet there.
Yeah.
Now, do you golf?
I used to.
Used to?
Used to take lessons, used to go weekly when I lived out in Coventry. But sadly got rid of my clubs.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, now you get to go to the golf course anyway. You're right down the road. Do you have any questions for me?
Where do you see technology going in multifamily with cameras and AI?
So I see the AI cameras really taking over. A couple things that, so we get a glimpse into the future with a lot of our vendors. They're actually using cameras as alarm sensors now. So now think of it as you've got your fence line, right? So instead of doing the live monitoring where a person has to look at it, at the cameras, which is a little bit more expensive, for much less money per month, I'm talking, $50 a month, $20 a month, you can have a camera see the fence line perimeter, and then as soon as a person crosses that fence line, it calls the police.
Wow.
Yeah. So back in, even just 2-3 years ago, we've had to install fence sensors, which, as you can imagine, is very costly to trench all the way to the fence, hardwire a sensor that senses a fence jiggling, and then if an animal's on the fence, it's setting it off. Then you'd have to also in software program an electrical input to send an electrical output to a PTZ camera to swing around to that preset location to catch it, right? Whereas today, using AI, there is an overview camera looking at your fence line of your large parking lot, and then you have that PTZ camera that traditionally would just be parked, right, or moving in a set pattern.
Yeah.
Whereas today, And it's going to be used more so in the future as well. As soon as that person is detected on that section of fence, the PTZ swings over and zooms in on them and sees them. So that's today. But that's kind of like breaking cutting edge technology for today. Going forward, more automations. So making it so that, you get a push notification when things happen instead of having to review after the fact. Another popular technology that's out right now is using AI, where the camera learns the scene and sees what's normal. And then, for example, we have a demo video of this from one of our manufacturers that just released it. There was a train in Boston on fire, and it told you that there was something wrong in this scene.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you can set the sensitivity. So over 80% sensitivity, right? That would tell you if in a high school, for example, there's like 20 kids in a fight, right?
Right.
Or like the garbage can is on fire and there's smoke. Another example was that people were in a warehouse at the top of the ladder, and the person jumped up and put their feet on the railings to get the extra 2 feet to grab a box. And it knew that that was not normal in the scene. And the AI was able to send a notification to the manager and say, hey, review this footage. So now, I think in the future, people are going to be coming in their desk in the morning, and it's like having an assistant watching cameras all night. And it's just, oh, this is not a problem. This is a problem. Forward it to their manager. Not a problem. And so on. So really cool stuff coming out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the breaking technology. So over the next couple of years, I think that's going to become a little bit more commonplace.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more so about how do you leverage that?
Right.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
Do you see that in schools as being like helpful with some of the...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For schools, I'd say it's got the biggest use case.
Yeah.
They're the ones with, we'll just be honest, they have some of the largest budgets for security systems for obvious reasons. Right. It's definitely warranted. But they also have the best use case. They're also limited on time. They don't, they're busy teaching the kids, right? They don't have the time to sit there clicking away on a computer. Sure, they've got security guards, right?
Right.
The security guards even, they have a lot of fatigue of watching a steady state monitor.
Right.
So a lot of one of our manufacturers, specifically a Vigilon, they have something catering to the security guard. It looks like a honeycomb on their screen. And using the AI events, you can use it where it learns the scene automatically. It gives you like a proactive notification if there's a fight that you have to review. It doesn't know it's a fight, but it knows it's out of the ordinary. Or you can set facial recognition and things like that, and it will proactively kind of blink at the security officer like 150 cameras, but on the honeycomb, it brings up this scene and pops it out and says, hey, look at this because this is out of the ordinary. Look at this. A license plate just came in the parking lot that's not whitelisted. Look at this. Also, there's somebody that went in the back door after a certain time. You have a rule set up that no kids should be in this hallway during this time period. So automatically, that's the future.
Thank goodness they didn't have that when I was in school.
Yeah.
When I was cut in school.
Yeah, we would have been expelled way sooner, right? Definitely. Well, I think that's, as they have all of these automations, they're not going, I think they were very strict, more strict when we were in school, potentially, because they didn't catch you every time.
Right.
But now if they automate that, I could see them being able to automate it. Hey, the door sensor was opened.
Right.
Facial recognition knows it was Eugene and Cindy leaving. And we're just going to send it right into the CRM, right?
Right.
Right into the CRM and say the parents are getting notified. Right. And 5 minutes later, you're like, man, no one saw me. How did my parents find me? Yep. So that could be on the horizon. So, I don't want to be the one building that integration. I definitely don't want to be involved in that, but it's theoretically the technology is there now to set that up. Which is exciting.
It is.
It's just a matter of getting it done. So someone will figure that side out, and then we'll be offering it.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to see where it goes with multifamily as well.
Yeah. Yeah. On the multifamily side, it's really the same thing. Somebody gets evicted, you mark them off on the facial recognition. Right. As soon as they're seen on the property or their license plate, you guys have a license plate camera at your property.
Love that camera.
Yeah, it provides the convictable evidence for the police. So as soon as they're on property, proactive notification via text message or something to you. It could even, if you have an alarm system, that can trigger a call to the police. Kind of iffy, because if you get too many of those and there's no real situation, they get upset about that and you can get fined for it. So it's really something that you want to use sparingly when it comes to those type of alerts. But when you have a lockdown property with the perimeter, you can call the police, because it's if someone's in a fenced in area, it's pretty standard. Yeah. But it shouldn't be there. You got signs up, that they can't say much about that. For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming down.
Thank you for
I appreciate it.